Welcome, listeners, to another journey into the extraordinary. I'm your narrator, and today we're exploring a story that asks a simple question. What happens when the galaxy's most feared predators decide to test themselves against humanity? This isn't just another space battle story. This is about the day Earth faced its greatest threat, and how the response revealed not just humanity's strength, but the dark political machinations that had been shaping galactic civilization for centuries. So settle in, perhaps with your favorite drink, and prepare for a tale of courage, conspiracy, and the unbreakable human spirit. And if you find yourself drawn into this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. The year was 2157, and Earth had been a member of the Galactic Coalition for exactly 47 years, 3 months and 16 days. Not that anyone was counting, except perhaps the bureaucrats on Centauri Station, who seemed to measure everything in precise increments. To most of the galaxy, humanity remained an enigma. We were the species from Sol 3, that peculiar Class 12 death world where everything, from the weather to the wildlife, seemed designed to eliminate life. Most civilized species couldn't fathom how anything intelligent could evolve in such conditions, let alone thrive. But on this particular morning, as Earth's sun rose over the rebuilt cities of New Geneva, something was stirring in the depths of space that would change everything. 300 light-years away, in the shadow of a dying red giant, the Keth'var Empire was making final preparations for what they called the Great Proving. The Keth'var were not merely another aggressive species. They were the apex predators of known space, evolved on Keth Prime, a Class 11 world where the very rain could dissolve unprotected flesh and the native flora hunted in coordinated packs. Their ships were works of art and terror combined. Sleek, predatory vessels that moved through space like sharks through dark water. Each one was a testament to their philosophy, that strength was the only truth, and weakness the only sin. But while the Keth'var prepared for war, another drama was unfolding in the corridors of power throughout the galaxy. Coalition intelligence officer Zarateeth of the Veltar Consortium had been tracking anomalous communications for months. Her species, the Veltar, were natural investigators. Their crystalline neural structures allowed them to process vast amounts of data simultaneously, making them invaluable to Coalition security. What she had discovered kept her awake during her species' natural rest cycles. Encrypted messages, coded financial transfers, and most disturbing of all, references to something called Project Nightfall. The trail led to the highest levels of Coalition government, to beings she had once respected, once trusted. And at the center of it all was a single, terrifying question. What if the coming invasion of Earth wasn't random at all? The Keth'var fleet materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system on a Tuesday morning, local time. It was, as many humans would later note with characteristic dark humor, a terrible way to start the week. Admiral Sarah Chen was in her office at Luna Command, reviewing supply requisitions over her morning coffee, a habit she'd maintained despite the availability of more efficient stimulants, when the proximity alarms began their urgent wailing. "Admiral!" Her aide, Lieutenant Commander Torres, burst through the door without ceremony. "We have a situation." The main display showed them 47 vessels of unknown configuration, their energy signatures unlike anything in Coalition databases. They moved with predatory grace, maintaining perfect formation as they advanced toward the inner system. Then came the message. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, in perfect galactic standard. "Primitive inhabitants of the Third World, I am War Leader Thakmor of the Keth'var Empire. Your species has been selected for the Great Proving. Surrender your world now, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears our name." Admiral Chen set down her coffee cup with deliberate care. She had served in 3 border conflicts, survived the Proxima incident, and once stared down a Regalian battlecruiser with nothing but a damaged frigate and pure stubbornness. "Lieutenant Commander," she said quietly, "please send the following response. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered sovereign human space without permission. You have 30 minutes to withdraw, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Torres blinked. "Admiral, their fleet outguns us 20-1. Chen smiled. The same smile she'd worn when facing down playground bullies as a child in the ruins of old Chicago. "Then we better make sure we fight smart instead of fair." Meanwhile, 3 sectors away on the Coalition capital world of Nexus Prime, Zarath was making a discovery that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The encrypted files she'd finally cracked revealed the truth about Project Nightfall. It wasn't a defensive operation or a research initiative. It was a conspiracy involving some of the most powerful beings in the Coalition, designed to keep emerging species, particularly humanity, from growing too influential. The plan was elegant in its cruelty. Allow the Keth'var to test Earth's defenses, weakening humanity enough to ensure their continued dependence on Coalition protection. Then, when the damage was done, swoop in as saviors to maintain the existing power structure. Zarath's crystalline form flickered with the Veltyre equivalent of rage. Her people valued truth above all else, and this was a perversion of everything the Coalition claimed to represent. She began composing an encrypted message to Earth, knowing it might be the most important communication of her career. The Keth'var response to Admiral Chen's ultimatum was swift and brutal. 31 minutes after her transmission, the first kinetic bombardment began. The weapons were works of terrible beauty. Crystalline spears of compressed matter that struck Earth's atmosphere at significant fractions of light speed. They were designed not just to destroy, but to demoralize, to break the spirit of any species foolish enough to resist the Keth'var Empire. New Geneva took the first hit. The city's shields held for exactly 4 seconds before the kinetic spear punched through them like tissue paper, carving a crater 3 kilometers wide in the heart of the metropolis. But something unexpected happened in the aftermath of that first strike. Instead of panic, instead of surrender, the response was uniquely, unmistakably human. Within minutes of the impact, rescue teams were pulling survivors from the rubble. Emergency shelters opened their doors to anyone who needed them. And in the smoking ruins of what had once been the city's center, someone had spray-painted a message on a half-collapsed wall. "Is that all you've got?" War leader Thakmor, monitoring the human response from his flagship, felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: confusion. His species had conquered 17 worlds, and in every case, the first bombardment had resulted in immediate surrender or complete societal collapse. These humans were different. The second wave of bombardment targeted military installations. Luna Command, Mars Defense Station, the orbital platforms around Jupiter. Each strike was precise, calculated to cripple Earth's defensive capabilities. But Admiral Chen had spent her career studying asymmetric warfare, and she had learned long ago that sometimes the best defense was to make your enemy think they were winning. Let me tell you about Maria Santos, a maintenance engineer on Luna Command. When the Keth'var spear punched through the station's hull, she found herself trapped in a section that was rapidly losing atmosphere. Standard protocol called for her to evacuate to the nearest safe zone. Instead, she grabbed an emergency patch kit and began sealing the breach, working in a vacuum suit that was already showing red warning lights for oxygen depletion. When rescue teams finally reached her, they found her unconscious but alive, having saved not just her own life, but the lives of 43 other people trapped in that section. When she woke up in the medical bay, her first words were, "Did we get the defensive grid back online?" This was the spirit the Keth'var were facing. Not just soldiers, but an entire species that treated impossible odds as a personal challenge. While Earth burned and fought, Zarath was racing against time on Nexus Prime. Her investigation had revealed the full scope of the conspiracy, but she needed proof that would stand up to Coalition scrutiny. The evidence was hidden in quantum-encrypted files scattered across a dozen different systems, each piece meaningless alone but devastating when assembled. Financial records showing payments to Keth'var intermediaries, communication logs revealing coordination between coalition officials and the Empire. Most damning of all, strategic assessments that calculated exactly how much damage Earth could sustain before becoming manageable. But as she worked to compile the evidence, Zaret realized she was being watched. Coalition security had noticed her activities, and it was only a matter of time before they moved to stop her. "Sorry," it said, as if confident of her presence. "As soon as the troops open a hole, I'll canta oivo." She made a decision that would define the rest of her career. She transmitted everything she had to Earth, along with a single message. The invasion is not what it seems. Trust no one but yourselves. The ground invasion began 72 hours after the first bombardment. Keth'var dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls glowing with re-entry heat as they delivered the Empire's finest warriors to what should have been a broken, demoralized world. They landed in major population centers: New York, London, Tokyo, São Paulo. Each landing zone had been carefully selected for maximum psychological impact. The Keth'var had studied human psychology and believed that striking at cultural and economic centers would shatter human resistance. They had made a fundamental error in their calculations. Picture this scene. A Keth'var warrior, 3 meters tall and armored in biomechanical plates that could deflect plasma fire, emerges from his dropship in the ruins of Times Square. His species had evolved on a world where only the strongest survived, where mercy was weakness and compassion was death. He expected to find cowering humans ready to surrender to their obvious superiors. Instead, he found Margaret O'Brien. Margaret was 73 years old, a retired teacher from Queens who had survived Hurricane Sandy, the Great Blackout of '98, and 40 years of New York City public transportation. She stood in the rubble of what had once been a coffee shop, holding a baseball bat that had belonged to her late husband. The Keth'var warrior towered over her, his weapons systems targeting her frail human form. In his language, a series of clicks and growls that the universal translator rendered as, "Surrender, primitive, and your death will be swift." Margaret looked up at this alien nightmare, this creature from humanity's darkest science fiction, and said something that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. "Son, I survived the subway system for 50 years. You think you scare me?" Moment. That single act of defiance by one elderly human woman crystallized everything the Keth'var had failed to understand about Earth's dominant species. They weren't fighting an army. They were fighting an entire world that had spent millions of years learning how to survive against impossible odds. The urban warfare that followed was unlike anything in the Keth'var's experience. They had expected to face organized military resistance, which they could counter with superior firepower and tactics. Instead, they found themselves fighting a species that treated guerrilla warfare as an art form. In the tunnels beneath New York, subway maintenance workers who had never held a weapon in their lives were building improvised explosives from cleaning supplies and timer circuits. In London, taxi drivers were using their knowledge of the city's maze-like streets to lead Keth'var patrols into carefully prepared ambushes. In Tokyo, office workers were coordinating resistance efforts using nothing but social media and pure determination. But it was in São Paulo that the Keth'var encountered something that would haunt their species for generations. Human creativity applied to warfare. The favelas, the sprawling urban communities that had grown organically over decades, became a three-dimensional battlefield where every alley, every rooftop, every hidden passage was a potential trap. The residents, who had spent their lives navigating a complex urban environment, turned their home into a maze that swallowed Keth'var patrols whole. War leader Thakmor, monitoring the ground operations from orbit, watched his casualty reports with growing disbelief. His warriors, the finest soldiers in the known galaxy, were being systematically outfought by what his intelligence reports classified as civilian non-combatants. It was impossible. It was unprecedented. It was human. While Earth fought for its survival, Zarat's evidence was making its way through the Coalition's intelligence networks. The quantum encrypted files she had transmitted were being analyzed by Earth's best cryptographers, revealing the full scope of the conspiracy that had led to the invasion. Admiral Chen, coordinating Earth's defense from a bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps, received the decoded intelligence with a mixture of rage and grim satisfaction. She had suspected that the invasion was too convenient, too perfectly timed to be random. Now she had proof. But more importantly, she had a weapon that the conspirators had never expected: the truth. The moment that defined the entire war came not in some grand battle, but in a subway tunnel beneath Manhattan. Keth'var strike leader Vashtar had been hunting a group of human resistance fighters for 3 days. His prey had led him deeper and deeper into the underground maze, always staying just ahead of his sensors, always managing to slip away at the last moment. Finally, he cornered them in an abandoned station. 12 humans, men, women, even children, trapped with nowhere to run. Vashtar activated his translation matrix and spoke. "Your resistance ends here. Surrender, and I will grant you the honor of a warrior's death." The humans looked at each other, and then something extraordinary happened. They began to laugh. The laughter wasn't hysterical or desperate. It was the kind of laughter you hear when someone tells a joke that's so absurd, so perfectly ridiculous, that you can't help but find it funny. "Honor of a warrior's death," said one of them, a woman in her 40s wearing a torn business suit. "Buddy, you just threatened to kill a bunch of accountants and school teachers. Where's the honor in that?" Vashtar's confusion deepened. "You are combatants. You have been attacking my forces." "We're New Yorkers," said another human, this one barely out of his teens. "We attack everything: traffic, bad pizza, tourists who walk too slow. It's what we do." And then the woman in the business suit said something that would echo through Keth'var military academies for centuries to come. "You want to know the difference between you and us? You fight because you're strong. We fight because we're home." That's when Vashtar realized the fundamental truth that his entire species had missed. They weren't fighting soldiers. They were fighting an entire world defending itself. And there is no force in the universe more dangerous than someone protecting their home. The battle that followed lasted less than 5 minutes. When it was over, Vashtar lay dying in a pool of his own blood, brought down not by superior weapons or tactics, but by 12 humans who simply refused to give up. As his vision faded, he heard the woman in the business suit speaking into a radio. "This is Sarah to base. Package delivered. The tunnel is clear." She wasn't even a soldier. She was an insurance adjuster from Queens. The turning point of the war came when Admiral Chen made a decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Using Zarati's intelligence, she broadcast the truth about Project Nightfall to every Coalition world simultaneously. The revelation sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Species that had trusted the Coalition's leadership for centuries learned that their supposed protectors had been manipulating them, using them, treating entire worlds as pawns in a cosmic chess game. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished. In a broadcast that reached every corner of known space, she delivered a message that would be remembered as one of the defining moments of galactic history. To the beings of the Coalition and to the Keth'var Empire currently occupying our world, you have made a fundamental error in judgment. You believe that because we come from a death world, we must be either primitive savages or dangerous monsters. You were wrong on both counts. We are neither savage nor monstrous. We are simply human. And that means we do not surrender our homes. Ever. The effect was immediate and devastating, not through violence, but through something far more powerful: unity. Across the galaxy, species that had been kept divided by coalition politics began to communicate directly with each other. The Regalian Defense Fleet, supposedly neutral in the conflict, began transmitting tactical data to Earth. The Centauri Mining Consortium started shipping raw materials to human resistance cells. Even the notoriously isolationist vegan collective opened their borders to human refugees. War leader Keth'var found himself fighting not just humanity, but an increasingly hostile galaxy that was beginning to question everything they had been told about the natural order of things. But the real blow came from an unexpected source. Zareth, still working frantically on Nexus Prime, had uncovered one final piece of evidence that changed everything. The Keth'var Empire itself had been manipulated. The Great Proving hadn't been their idea at all. Coalition conspirators had fed them intelligence about human weakness, had suggested Earth as a target, had even provided them with tactical assessments that were deliberately flawed. The Keth'var, for all their martial prowess, had been used as unwitting tools in someone else's political game. When this information reached Keth'var through encrypted channels, Zareth had managed to slice into Keth'var communication networks. The war leader experienced something his species rarely felt: shame. His warriors were dying not in honorable combat, but as pawns in a conspiracy that treated both humans and Keth'var as expendable resources. What happened next would be studied in military academies and diplomatic schools for generations to come. War leader Keth'var did something unprecedented in Keth'var history. He requested a parley with his enemy. The meeting took place in the ruins of the United Nations building in New York, a location chosen for its symbolic significance. Admiral Chen arrived with a small security detail, while Keth'var came alone, a gesture of respect that spoke volumes about how much his perspective had changed. The two leaders faced each other across a table made from debris, surrounded by the wreckage of a building that had once represented humanity's highest aspirations for peace. "Admiral Chen," Keth'var began, his words translated by the same systems that had once carried threats of destruction. "I have learned something that brings great shame to my people. We have been deceived." Chen studied the alien warrior before her. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his posture, the weight of command that she recognized from her own mirror. "We've all been deceived, war leader. The question is, what do we do about it?" Keth'var's response would echo through history. "We do what warriors do when they discover they have been fighting the wrong enemy. We turn and face the true threat." The alliance that formed in that ruined building was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Two species from Deathworlds, both manipulated by the same corrupt system, choosing to stand together against the forces that had used them. But their partnership faced an immediate test. The coalition conspirators, realizing that their plot had been exposed, made a desperate gambit. They activated a failsafe that would turn the Keth'var invasion into something far worse. Hidden among the invasion fleet were weapons of mass destruction, planet killers that the conspirators had planted without Keth'var's knowledge. If they couldn't control Earth, they would ensure it could never threaten their power structure. The countdown had already begun. Admiral Chen and war leader Keth'var had less than 6 hours to prevent the complete annihilation of Earth. Working together, they began the most desperate mission of their careers, locating and disarming weapons hidden throughout the Keth'var fleet. The irony was not lost on either of them. Humans and Keth'var, who had been killing each other for weeks, were now fighting side by side against a common enemy. In the depths of space, human engineers worked alongside Keth'var technicians, their species' different approaches to problem-solving complementing each other in ways that surprised everyone involved. Dr. James Park, a quantum physicist from MIT, found himself working with Keth'var weapon master Grixtal to defuse a device that could crack a planet's core. Despite having no common language beyond the universal translator, they developed an almost telepathic understanding of each other's methods. "Your species thinks in patterns mine cannot perceive," Grixtel observed as they worked to isolate the weapon's trigger mechanism. "And your people see solutions that would never occur to us," Park replied, carefully adjusting a quantum resonance field. "Maybe that's the point. Maybe we're stronger together than apart." With 2 hours remaining on the countdown, they had located and disarmed 11 of the 12 planet killers. But the final weapon was different. More sophisticated, more heavily protected, and hidden aboard the Coalition vessel that had been secretly coordinating the conspiracy. The ship was the CNS Harmony, a diplomatic vessel that had been orbiting Earth since the invasion began, ostensibly to monitor the situation and provide humanitarian assistance. In reality, it was the command center for Project Nightfall. Admiral Chen made a decision that would define the rest of her career. She would personally lead a boarding party to the Harmony, knowing that it was almost certainly a suicide mission. Questioned, but she wouldn't be going alone. War leader Thakmor insisted on accompanying the mission, along with a mixed team of human and Keth'var specialists. It was the first time in galactic history that warriors from 2 death worlds had fought side by side. The boarding action was swift and brutal. The Harmony's crew, realizing their conspiracy had been exposed, fought with the desperation of beings who knew they faced not just defeat, but the complete destruction of everything they had worked to build. But they had made one crucial error. They had underestimated what humans and Keth'var could accomplish when they stopped fighting each other and started fighting together. The final confrontation took place in the Harmony's command center, where Coalition Director Velanash, one of the architects of Project Nightfall, waited with the activation key for the last planet killer. "You're too late," he snarled as Chen and Thakmor burst through the blast doors. "In 30 minutes, Earth dies, and with it any threat to the natural order of the galaxy." "The natural order?" Chen's voice was deadly quiet. "You mean the order where you decide who lives and who dies? Where entire species exist only at your sufferance?" Velnish raised the activation device. "Some species are meant to lead, others are meant to follow. Your kind, both your kinds, are too dangerous to be allowed true freedom." That's when Thakmor spoke, his words carrying the weight of a warrior's honor. "You speak of natural order, but you know nothing of nature. In nature, the strong protect the weak, not exploit them. You are not strong. You are parasite." The battle for the activation device lasted less than a minute, but it felt like hours. When it was over, Velanash lay unconscious and the countdown had been stopped, with less than 3 minutes to spare. But the real victory wasn't in preventing Earth's destruction, it was in what came next. The aftermath of the Keth'var War, as historians would later call it, reshaped galactic civilization in ways that no one could have predicted. The Coalition underwent massive reforms, with the corrupt leadership replaced by representatives chosen by the member species themselves, rather than appointed by shadowy power brokers. Zared, whose investigation had exposed the conspiracy, became the first director of galactic ethics, tasked with ensuring that such manipulation could never happen again. But perhaps the most significant change was the relationship between humanity and the Keth'var Empire. War leader Thakmor, now bearing the title of Peacebringer, the first Keth'var in history to earn such an honor, established a permanent embassy on Earth. The cultural exchange that followed enriched both species in ways they had never imagined. Humans learned Keth'var martial disciplines that emphasized not just physical strength, but mental resilience and spiritual balance. The Keth'var, in turn, discovered human concepts of cooperation, creativity, and what they came to call the strength of the pack, the idea that a group could be stronger than the sum of its parts. Admiral Chan, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and serving as Earth's primary liaison to the reformed Coalition, often reflected on the lessons of the war. In her memoirs, she wrote, "We learned that the galaxy's greatest threats don't always come from outside. Sometimes they come from within, from those who would divide us, manipulate us, and use our fears against each other. But we also learn that when different species choose to stand together, when they choose cooperation over conflict, there is no force in the universe that can stand against them. The memorial built in the ruins of Times Square, where Margaret O'Brien had made her famous stand, bears an inscription in both human and Keth'var languages. Here stood those who refused to surrender their home. Here began the friendship that changed the galaxy. Margaret herself, who survived the war and lived to see the peace that followed, was asked by a reporter what she thought about becoming a galactic legend. Her response was typically human. "Legend? Honey, I just didn't want some alien telling me I couldn't have my morning coffee in peace." But perhaps the most fitting epilogue to the story came 5 years later, when the first joint human Keth'var exploration vessel, the UES Friendship, launched on a mission to explore the galaxy's outer rim. Its captain was Sarah Chen's daughter, Lieutenant Commander Maria Chen. Its first officer was Thakmor's son, Honor Guard Keth'var. Together, they represented not just the alliance between their species, but the hope that the galaxy could be something better than it had been. As the Friendship disappeared into the depths of space, carrying its mixed crew toward unknown worlds and new adventures, it carried with it a simple message, that strength comes not from standing alone, but from choosing to stand together. And so we come to the end of our story, though in many ways it was really just the beginning. The Keth'var War lasted only 6 months, but its effects continue to ripple through galactic civilization decades later. The lesson, if there is one, isn't that humans are the toughest species in the galaxy, or that the Keth'var are the most honorable warriors. It's something simpler and more profound. That understanding is stronger than fear, cooperation more powerful than domination, and truth more enduring than any lie. In our own world and our own time, we face challenges that sometimes seem insurmountable. We encounter those who would divide us, who profit from our conflicts, who tell us that we must choose between strength and compassion. The story of Admiral Chen and war leader Thakmor reminds us that this is a false choice. True strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. True honor comes from standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. And true wisdom comes from recognizing that our supposed enemies might simply be fellow victims of those who would manipulate us all. The galaxy is vast, full of wonders and terrors we can barely imagine. But it's also full of beings who, like us, simply want to live their lives in peace, to protect their families, and to leave the universe a little better than they found it. Perhaps that's the most human thing of all, and perhaps it's not uniquely human at all. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stars and into the depths of what it means to be human, or Keth'var, or any species trying to find their place in a vast and sometimes hostile universe. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about courage, cooperation, or the power of standing together against those who would divide us, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The comment section below is more than just a place to leave feedback. It's a community where we can discuss the themes and ideas that these stories explore. What did you think of Admiral Chen's leadership? How about the relationship between humanity and the Keth'var? Have you ever faced a situation where you had to choose between what was easy and what was right? Share your thoughts, your experiences, your own stories of courage in the face of impossible odds. And if you enjoyed this tale of interstellar politics, unlikely alliances, and the unbreakable human spirit, please consider hitting that like button. It helps other listeners discover these stories, and it lets me know that you'd like to hear more adventures from the depths of space and the heights of human imagination. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. We've got more stories coming that explore what it means to be human in a universe full of wonders, terrors, and possibilities we're only beginning to understand. Until next time, remember, we're all in this together. Whether we're from Earth, Keth Prime, or anywhere else in this vast galaxy we call home.